After months of delay, the Census Bureau finally released the nation's once-a-decade population totals, and it is not good news for New York. The new data shows that New York will lose one seat in Congress as a result of population shifts. The state also stands to lose out on federal aid.
All right, here with more on the potential impact from the census count, Staten Island and Brooklyn Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. Nice to have you back on Good Day New York.
Good morning.
Okay, how does this really impact our area right now, losing that one seat?
Well, certainly it does make an impact in the federal funding that we could be receiving as a city and a state. The other thing would be we lose a congressional seat, which probably won't really impact New York City. It may be somewhere upstate where the population loss was more. But I think that at the end of the day, that's one less individual that's fighting for the state of New York. And when we are competing with other states and pushing for policies like restoring the SALT deduction, which we're working in a bipartisan fashion to do, it does hinder our ability to deliver these things. And so I believe that losing population and losing another voice in Congress is something that is hurtful, and it continues a downward trend, which unfortunately is a result of population loss because of certain policies that have been put in place in the city and the state under one-party rule. We've seen crime increasing, soaring as a matter of fact, 50 shootings just in the last week in New York City. We're seeing our economy being hurt by burdensome policies, increase in taxes, the cost of living going up. You know, these are policies that I've been concerned about and speaking against for a number of years, but certainly as a Republican, I'm outnumbered in this city. But I think that we have an opportunity to try to reverse course here in the upcoming elections.
I was just going to say, I mean, is there anybody listening? I mean, is the mayor listening? Is the governor listening? I mean, they were so pushing the census taking and encouraging everybody to make sure they fill out their forms. Now you don't hear anything from the mayor and the governor about losing a seat.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it's because it's the result of their policies that we're in this position. But of course, to be fair, you know, COVID obviously had an impact as well. You know, people were in the hospital, people lost loved ones, people were left the city, whether temporarily or permanently. You know, so there was a lot happening in this past year that really, I think, put New York at a disadvantage. But make no mistake about it, it is the policies that have been put in place that are driving New Yorkers out that have left us with one less voice in Washington. And also, people should take note that in November, they're trying to put the Albany politicians are trying to put a referendum on the ballot that would remove the independent redistricting process, which many of us supported in the legislature, and try to take the power back so they can redraw the lines and gerrymander. And that's the last thing that New Yorkers should want, and they have to be vigilant about that, should that referendum be on November's ballot.
So tomorrow the president holds his first joint Congress address, 100 days. You have one of those coveted invitations because they're limited because of COVID-19. You said you were honored to receive it. You've been critical of the president thus far. What are you hoping with this extension of an invitation?
Sure. Look, I think it is an honor to attend an event like this. It's a historic event and is the president's first address to Congress. I am going to be looking for opportunities where we can maybe find some common ground. To date, he has said he wants to work in a bipartisan fashion. We haven't seen that. If you look at the COVID relief bill, how he even changed the rules to try to jam it through, not taking any amendments from Republicans or Democrats, and then changing the rules in the Senate to only require 51 votes instead of 60. I'm hopeful that by attending, I show in good faith that I'm willing to work across party lines where we can agree. You know, there's opportunity for us to make this transportation infrastructure package a bipartisan one, and it should be a bipartisan one that focuses on improving our infrastructure into the 21st century, modernizing our subway system, and doing a lot of good things for New York City in that package, but it has to be focused on infrastructure. You know, he's trying to jam in all sorts of other legislative policy. It's going to be a problem. Certainly, I want to work with the president. We need to secure our borders. We need to actually, I would urge them to really go to the border and see what I saw when I was there recently,
yes,
and how the drug cartels are taking over. So these are issues where I hope we can find some common ground. We'll work with anyone and everyone who wants to address these issues, but also I'm going to have to push back when they're doing something that hurts our country. And of course, restoring the SALT deduction is critical as well.
Right. Well, speaking of, last time you were on, you shared your photos that you had taken at the southern border and talked about the deplorable conditions there. Have you seen any progress?
No, but we have seen them at least starting to acknowledge that there is an issue here. I think they're trying to find a political way to address this issue without admitting that President Trump's policies were working. They had stemmed the tide of illegal migration. We have to go after those drug cartels who are running the show. They're trying to distract CBP, and as they're doing that with the migrant flow of about 170,000 a month, they're committing nefarious acts, gun trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking at the open parts of our border. If we can go back to the policies that were in place pre his executive order in January 20th, that's a good starting point, and then we can have a real discussion on how to modernize and streamline our immigration system, implement visa entry tracking systems, secure our borders. All of that has to be done. But we can't do it and have a real discussion if we don't stop the current flow at the border. It's a humanitarian crisis if you see these children all on top of each other at these facilities during COVID. It is a public safety issue because I mentioned all the trafficking activity that's taking place. And there's sex trafficking. We had a 9-year-old girl that was gang raped. I mean, really horrible things that have been happening on this journey to America, and we should not be encouraging it. The only winners are the smugglers and cartels.
The video has been heartbreaking, Congresswoman. One last thing about the SALT deduction. A lot of the New York Congress people in our area are coming together, right, to maybe not support President Biden's budget. Do you have bipartisan support? What's going on? What is the latest with that?
Yeah, there is bipartisan support. You know, we're working with Tom Suozzi, Andrew Garbarino of Long Island, Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey. You know, there is bipartisan support, but there's also some opposition from Democrats within New York City. I'd say come to Staten Island, come to Southern Brooklyn, speak to the homeowners who have been hurt by our mayor and our governor increasing their taxes. New York City is the only municipality in the state that does not have a property tax cap. That's something that I would hope that the next mayor would really look at doing. I've been pushing for that, and I think that that needs to be done. But this is not a license for our mayor and our governor to continue increasing taxes on the people. That's what I don't want to see. Not for the federal government to give more money back to New Yorkers, and then for our mayor and governor to take it with another hand, with the other hand, increasing their taxes. So I think that, you know, we have to have an understanding here. This is what the federal government can do, because we do pay New York $26 billion more to the federal government than we get back. So we're not getting our fair share in federal funding, which is why we need that extra congressional seat to fight, to help us have a united front to make sure we get our fair share. And as we're doing that, we also want to do what we can to give some money back to the people. You know, government doesn't know how to spend your money better than you do. That's the bottom line. So the more we can do, and this is what I can do as a federal rep, is support the restoration of the SALT deduction.
Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis from Brooklyn and Staten Island, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us here on Good Day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Coming up, sports.